5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to use sign to talk. Mr. Speaker, we would not know, had it not been for the Canterbury earthquakes sequence, whether we would actually be debating this piece of legislation here in the third reading of this bill. So in some perverse way, it is fortuitous that, that as a result of what happened over the last 5 years, we've come to the conclusion that we need to do something about ensuring that we don't put our people at risk further. And it's a sad lesson, but it is a lesson that's been learnt from Canterbury, when we will do everything we can to protect the loss of life. And I must acknowledge the loss of the 185 people who lost their lives, but also the thousands of people who lost their homes, the communities that were disrupted, and the significant amount of change and work that's happened in the Canterbury region over the last few years. And if we look to the recent quake that happened on February 14th, which resulted in further claims to EQC. I think within the first few days there were something like 1,700 claims, but it did actually provide us with some measure of comfort, I guess, in that immediately after that quake, I, along with the Deputy Chair of our Community Board and some of the local community patrols, actually got out on the streets, and went to the areas where we knew that there would be some particular prone buildings or some areas where there might be some issues, only to hear that people were saying that the technology that was used to rebuild the residential properties in many cases had done exactly what it was designed to do. The rib rafts that were used extensively through the Parklands area, for example, which is very much prone to liquefaction and is one of the kind of sensitive areas moving forward. Many people said that the technology, the rib rafts that were used there, did what they were designed to do. They moved gently with the earthquakes, and that gave the community some comfort that in terms of our technology, in terms of our learnings, we had done something right. However, that was not always the case, and as I stated before, there were claims that were made after Valentine's Day, so we've still got much work to do. And I was part of some of the previous readings on this bill and the committee stages when there was some very robust discussion about what the impacts of this bill would be on other parts of the country, other areas where they felt that they were unduly harsh provisions that their councils and territorial authorities would have to undertake to ensure a standard of building which was felt during those debates to be unreasonable. And I'm pleased that the volume and the quality of those debates got us to the point where further work was done, further consultation happened, and we now have a piece of legislation that is broadly supported across the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do want to just make a couple of points about this legislation makes it very clear. It gives some consistency of standards to councils. It makes it very clear about timeframes, about what needs to be done. And I think the exercise in developing those risk ratings, prioritising those key buildings such as emergency services, educational facilities, and looking at those structures such as verandas and parapets and about the methods that can be used to strengthen those, I think has been really useful. Mr. Speaker, I won't continue my contribution. I want to thank you for the opportunity also to use a little bit of sign in this sign language read. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call Joanne